All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So, folks, as everybody saw, just after a few short hours, the Alec Murdoch jury came back with guilty on all charges. You know it's going to be a quick one when they ask the jurors, hey, can we put in a dinner order for you guys? Could be a long night. What'll you have? And the jury goes, don't even worry about it. We'll see you in about 10 minutes. I was going to honk the lie cry horn for this one, but after further review, technically, Alex was a lie snot. I feel like Alec thought if I can just get up on the stand and have a snot string hit the floor while still being connected to my nose, they'll have to acquit. The old, if the snot hits, you must acquit. I'm on pills. My favorite part of the defense's closing argument was when, at a total left field, not rooted in any reality, not supported by any evidence, they introduced the new wild theory that possibly Paw Paw figured out who Alec's pill dealer was. And Paul went to the pill dealer and said, you don't sell my dad any more pills, mister. But unfortunately, the pill dealer was a member of an imaginary dangerous drug gang. Oh my God. You know it's not going well when you're introducing wild new theories at closing arguments. I was laughing at the thought of Alec's lawyers all in an office the night before closing arguments, and one's leg is jostling nervously, and one's chewing on his knuckle, and one's pacing at the front of the room, and the one that's pacing back and forth says, make no mistake about it, gentlemen, our backs are against the wall. The prosecution is all confident because they have a bunch of strong evidence, but we have to come up with something. Mr. Murdoch cannot go down for this. And a lawyer that had been quiet up until that point, sitting in the corner, says, I think I have an idea. And they all lean in. What is it? Tell us what it is. And the lawyer says, there was a case up in Wisconsin where a legal strategy was used unlike anything the justice system has ever seen. And it's a long shot, but I think it could help us. And everybody leans in a little bit further. What is it? And the lawyer said, it's called subject matter jurisdiction. All of their eyes flash in the lamplight. That's it. I watched a press conference that the defense attorneys did right after the guilty verdicts where they said, we lost this case all the way at the very beginning when the judge allowed for all of Alec's financial crimes to be talked about. The stealing from the cancer patient, the stealing from the paraplegic, the stealing from children. They said once that was allowed in, they had no chance, and it was over as soon as it began. One thing that the judge didn't allow in was talking about the Stephen Smith case, which, Buster, what do you say, Buster? Should we have the FBI take a big new look at the Stephen Smith case with a magnifying glass? What do you say, Buster? Stephen Smith was found with his head bashed in on a dark, scary rural road in 2015. It was chalked up to a tragic hit and run traffic accident. No need for an investigation. And the problem is everybody that had worked traffic accident scenes their whole career looked at it and said, nothing about this says hit and run, traffic accident, nothing about it. And the only two names that came up over and over were Buster Murdoch and Paul Murdoch. Imagine Buster Murdoch walks out of the country club wearing khakis and a pink golf shirt and boat shoes out into the sunshine, and there's a bunch of cops in the parking lot. Buster Murdoch, you are under arrest for the murder of Stephen Smith. And as soon as the police grab Buster's wrist, Buster wakes up and he's sweating in his bed, and his girlfriend goes, what happened? And Buster says, nothing. I had the dream again. Buster, what do you say, Buster? But they thought that in the press conference, the defense lawyers said we lost as soon as the judge allowed for all of that just depraved financial crimes to be talked about in trial. I think the judge made the right decision because That's motive. That is a very important part of the motive in this one. And I think the motive in this one has to be maybe the most complicated and interesting and intricate and important motive of any case I've ever seen. And the defense attorneys agree because they said once that was in, we lost. And also a big chunk of their closing statement, the strategy was simplify that motive way down, and so it seems absurd, going, just because he was caught doing all of those horrible financial crimes, that wouldn't mean he would kill his family. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so he was going down for embarrassing financial crimes. Why would you kill your family? It doesn't make sense. One funny argument that they made was anyone in their right mind that was in that situation would kill themselves, not their family. Again, it's not going great when a legitimate argument in your murder trial was anyone in this man's situation would have killed themselves. The jury's like, good point. But let's go over the motive, because I think it's extremely important in this one, because you have to get the jury to the point where they can say, that's how he did it. How did you end up killing your family? It's a stretch for a lot of people to think, how could you ever do that? That was probably the defense's main thing they had going for them, is because it's crazy. Anyone in their right mind, why would you do that? But when you really get the evidence painted, the whole thing, it's like, all right, yeah, I kind of see it. And one of the uphill battles for the prosecution was part of the motive you can't really talk about in court, because you end up bashing one of the victims in the homicide. You can't bring up, Paul was totally out of control, a malignant psycho drunk that was on a path of going to jail. He had already killed at least one person. He was I'm sure being Paul's parent was stressful. He had such a bad drinking problem. His feet are swelling. But you can't ask Alec up on the stand, was Paul a horrible, out of control drunk that was causing you stress? Because Alec would just go, no, my son Paw Paw was perfect. And you're not going to bring in Paul's friends to testify that he was out of control and on this course of a really kind of a tough life, because then you're having negative character witnesses for the victim in the murder case, and it's just not a good look. So I do think that the prosecution was able to paint the motive even without a pillar of it, in my opinion. But let's go back and talk about the motive. And first, let's talk about the financial crimes. Alec is stealing from paraplegic. He's stealing from children. He's stealing from the cancer patient. He's stealing from his brotherhood law friends. And Alec is smart enough to know there's no way that was going to last. It was going to come to a embarrassing splat at some point. Imagine the stress Alec had knowing all that it took was one accountant going, wait a second, what is this? And the whole thing is over. I'm sure every time Alec stole from another paraplegic or a child or something, he would be just so down on himself, like, God, this is so stupid. This is going to end in an embarrassing disaster. Stop doing it, Alec. You're going to get caught. You can't do this anymore. That's the last time. I'm never doing it again. But then the pill bag gets alarmingly empty, and you got to do something. The family lifestyle was unsustainable. The pill bag's alarmingly empty. And then all of a sudden he sees the paraplegic's bank account at the law firm has a bunch of money in it. And he thinks, all right, one more time. But he's smart enough to know that's going to end. I picture Alec walking up to the financial cliff, doing the same concentrated movements of an Olympic high diver. And he steps up to the cliff, and all he's wearing is a red Speedo and a red bow tie. And he jumps off the cliff with perfect swan dive form. toes pointed, arms splayed out, with a grin, a satisfied grin on his face that everybody has when the opiates kick in, and he's just floating down with a perfect swan dive, and falling with him are a bunch of pills and guns and money, and eventually he splatted really like nothing I've probably ever seen before. And once he splats, then all the pills and guns land around him and bounce, and then the money's the last thing that floats down, and it's the end of Alec Murdaugh. But he knows, he's smart enough. There's no way that I can keep stealing this money from my law firm and the clients and everything and get away with it. So that stress is building, probably unlike anything that you've ever experienced in your whole life. On top of that, his dad is careening towards the end of his life. And so everybody knows losing a parent, having a parent really sick is incredibly stressful. So he knows the impending, embarrassing doom of being caught financially stealing from everybody, plus the stress of almost losing a parent, plus Maggie and Paul were really on him to get off the pills. You gotta get off, Alec. They were set on it. And anybody that's been addicted to pills knows having the stress of losing a parent plus the financial disaster that's about to hit, that's gonna be a tough time to kick the pills. But I think without the boat wreck, which we'll talk about, if it was just stealing from clients and his law partners, possibly Alec could have handled that. He could have cried and said, I just am so addicted to pills. I made a stupid mistake. Can we just repay the clients? I'll bow out of the law firm. We'll keep it quiet. I think maybe he could have spun it. But all of a sudden, the boat wreck happens. And that highlights Paul was totally out of control and had a really sinister drinking problem. His friends, once he started drinking and would turn into his evil alter ego, they called him Timmy. Uh-oh, Timmy's here. And no one really wanted Timmy around. And the night of the boat accident, he's on film funneling beer, like 6 beers just to start the night. That's no longer a party. What are you running from, Paul? So he's funneling beers, being totally negligent, and it wasn't like he had a couple beers and then made just an honest mistake in the boat wreck. Everybody knew he was too drunk to drive the boat. Paul, let us drive, let someone else drive. And he's going, no way, this is my boat, get out of there. Slaps his girlfriend, guns it. And so the lawsuits from the boat accident that was going to be a total disaster for Alec Murdaugh. And Paul's probably going to jail, which is unheard of at the time for a Murdoch to go to jail in low country. They made sure Paul Murdoch, when he took his mugshot, he didn't have to wear the demeaning faded orange jumpsuit. No, he's a Murdoch. He gets to wear a fresh new collared shirt that you would wear on an Easter Sunday celebration. We don't want a Murdoch to have an embarrassing mugshot picture. No way. But I think Alec, he knows the stealing from paraplegic and children and cancer patient is going to explode in a horrible, embarrassing fire explosion. And then Paul and Maggie are the ones, we really want you to get off the pills. And then the boat accident happens, and he says Paul was getting threats from people after the boat accident. I would say the threats were more just people telling Paul how it is. Like, Paul, you're an idiot. You have a drinking problem and you killed Mallory, and now you're still out here partying, and you're not a good guy, Paul. And they took that as everybody's threatening me. But I think when that came back, that people are saying things to Paul and threatening him, my theory is that was the first time that Alex started thinking, what would life be like without Paw Paw? Because I think Alec thought, he's got this horrible drinking problem, and I am in no place with my pill addiction to have any brain space to work on that problem, and he's become a very stressful child to have because of this boat accident, and he's become a very expensive child to have because of all the lawsuits that are raining down. And that's what Alec did for his job. He did cases about car wrecks, and he got these huge settlements. So he knew the settlements that from this boat accident were going to be staggering amounts of money. And he thought Paul and Maggie are also the ones that want to get me off these pills right when I need the pills the most, that during this stressful time when the financial crimes are coming to a head, when I'm about to lose my father, when my kid has these criminal charges for the boat accident. And I think that's the moment that Alec Murdoch thought, if I take out Paul, I'm really saving Paul. I've done everything in my power this whole time to protect my family, and I think the last act of protection is to kill Paul. And if you kill Paul, you gotta kill Maggie too, because if he just kills Paul, then he has a broken wife, understandably, from losing a child. And also, once Paul's gone, Maggie is still there wanting to get off the pills. You gotta get off the pills. And all of a sudden, I think the idea popped in his head of, life is about to change for the Murdochs. I'm probably going to lose my law license. I'm not going to be able to practice law anymore. I'm not going to be able to be the breadwinner for Paul, who is a little bit directionless. He has ADD. He has a horrible drinking problem. He's about ready to go to jail. He's about ready to be sued into oblivion with the rest of the family. He wants me to get off the pills. In a way, I think killing them is protecting them from the life change that's about to happen. What if, once I can't practice law anymore, what if Maggie has to get a job at the supermarket as a cashier? Or what if she has to get a job at the movie theater? That is far too embarrassing for our family, and that is just demeaning for Maggie. So it would almost be better if I killed Paul and Maggie. It would almost be a heroic fatherly act, a tough act, but the right thing to do. And that's how I think Alec was able to actually do the unthinkable. Is in his head, he thought things are about to change for the worst, and life as we know it, as this rich, powerful, Maggie doesn't have to work family, there's no way it's going to keep going. And so if I take out Paul and Maggie, all of a sudden, I am the ultimate victim. Oh my gosh, he lost his wife and son. No, don't accuse him of stealing from the child and paraplegic and cancer payment. He lost his wife and son. And Paul was murdered. Okay, yeah, the whole boat, all of those lawsuits are gone. That whole thing comes to a stop, and the two people that wanted him off the pills, those are out of the way. And so with the financial accusations gone, the boat lawsuits gone, the problem that Paul is out of control and what are we going to do, and he's directionless and we're having to pay for his life and he's probably going to go to jail, that's all gone. And Maggie, who wanted him off the pills and probably would have to get a job and have an embarrassing, demeaning life that's not a rich and powerful one, that's gone. And then all that's left is Alec, and everybody just, don't worry about it, Alec. You just relax. Can't imagine what you're going through, losing your wife and son and father. You just sit back, and he could just ride off into the sunset with his big bag of pills. And in my opinion, that's the motive. And like I said, I think that as any case I've ever seen, the motive in this one was as important, or if not more important, than I've ever seen. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Alex Murdoch cross-examination. Mr. Waters versus Alec Murdoch, lawyer versus lawyer. They went to law school at the same time. They knew of each other. In a way, Mr. Waters took Alec's job. Alec was born to be a prosecutor, and all of a sudden he can't cut it, and Mr. Waters is the prosecutor, and Alec is at the other table. And the irony of Alec, the man that was the part of the legal dynasty, born to be a prosecutor, is now at the other table. And his badge that his grandfather gave him, here you go, Alec, here is my prosecutor badge. One day you will have your own prosecutor badge. I bet the grandfather never thought that badge that he gave little Alec, here you go, son, was going to end up living the rest of its days in an evidence envelope for a murder case. The judge said, this is wild, the judge said that he had to order a giant picture of Alec's grandfather to be taken down in the hallway of the court because it was just absurd. And he said, this is the same courtroom that you and your family have been practicing law in for a century. I mean, it's wild stuff. And Alec was watching Buster testify with this proud papa smile on his face, almost like Buster had graduated law school with honors and he was up there prosecuting his first case. I'm just so proud of him. But it's like, Alec, he's testifying in your murder trial about killing your wife and kids. What's this stupid proud papa grin? There's nothing good about this. I couldn't get over that. But it's interesting, a man that comes from a legal dynasty family, been around cases his whole life, prosecuted cases, gets up on the stand, lawyer versus lawyer, and it's for keeps. It's for Alec's life. And it was not an easy cross-examination for Mr. Waters because Alec knows the deal, and he knows that when you're cross-examining, you want to ask questions that their answers paint this picture. And so Alec didn't want to lie, but he also wasn't going to make it easy on Mr. Waters and just do quick yes, yes, no, no. And then all of a sudden the picture that Mr. Waters wants to paint is vivid and clear for the jury. So like one of them, for example, Mr. Waters asked Alec, is your family prominent in the area? Easy question. It definitely is. But instead of saying just yes and making it easy on Mr. Waters, Alex goes, predominant? I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean. I think our family is respected in the area, and I think our family is this. And then all of a sudden, what should have been a quick 1-second answer onto the next one to paint the picture turns into a 3-minute question where Alec has told 2 stories and not understood what predominant means. And then you finally get there. Yes, I do think, all right, I'll give you that. I do think that our family is predominant in the area, but it's this slow go that muddies the waters. And all of a sudden it's like, what were we even talking about? So Alec was really good about, or like, did you look a paraplegic in the eyes and steal from them? And Alec would go, I did steal from all of those people. I did them wrong. I admit it. I am sorry for it. I'm sad about it. I did do it. But as far as that specific example about did I look that person in the eyes, I'm not sure if I did. No, I don't think. So it's almost like I'm a hero for admitting I did this and I did that and I admit it and I'm not trying to hide it. But as far as that example, no, I didn't do it. I can't remember. I don't recall. Sorry, Mr. Waters. So it was a frustrating battle. Like, I think that the closing statements Mr. Waters did was a lot easier than the cross-examination because you didn't have Alec going, I admit it, but I don't admit it. And it went a lot smoother because the evidence really was on the prosecution's side, but being the lawyer that Alex is, he knew how to slow stuff down and how to make it, all of a sudden he's telling some irrelevant story, and Mr. Waters just wants this simple answer. But Mr. Waters started the cross-examination by going, let's start with things that we agree on. And he goes, you would agree that the most important part of your testimony is admitting that you lied about being at the crime scene. For a year and a half, you stuck with the story. I was nowhere near the crime scene. I was at my mom's, and then only once, 10 months after the murders, when they find the video, all of a sudden, up on the stand, you admitted, oops, I was there right when it happened. You would admit that's the most important thing. And again, Alec can make it tough on him and go, I think all of my testimony is important. And it's like, yeah, but you would agree that that is important. Yes, I would agree that that's important. And then another good example is he goes, you have been stealing from your clients since 2010. And he goes, I've been stealing from a long time, but 2010? I don't know if it was 2010. And then they're talking about the family legacy, which this story is one for the ages, because there's like 5 to 10 storylines that if it was any one of the storylines, it would be an interesting national news story. But you mix them all together, and you mix that the family has been the prosecutors since 1910, and it makes it truly one for the books. And a really solid part of the cross-examination, I thought, was when Mr. Waters is asking him, the cases that you worked on as a civil lawyer, all of them used cell phone data and electronic vehicle data, right? And they established that a lot of them did. And that's not a coincidence that Alec, immediately when the murders happened and the cops got there, and you can watch it on body cam, cop goes, so what happened? And Alex goes, it's bad. It was a long story. It was definitely the people that were threatening my son after the boat accident. And also, please check the cell phone data and electronic data, and you'll get everything you need to know. There you go. So definitely wasn't me. All of that cell phone data and electronic data always felt a little bit manufactured and too perfect, and not even quite working timeline-wise. And then thank God they got the video off of Paul's phone to blow it all up. But I thought that was a good point to make, that you're very comfortable, Alec, with the OnStar data and the cell phone data, and it just happens to be all of that is the data that you can't wait for them to pull off. And look, see, told you I didn't do it. Oh, another wild thing about this story that makes it one for the books is you can watch the body camera footage when the first cop gets there. Hey, what happened? You can watch the first interrogation, the second interrogation, the third interrogation, the entire trial, all the way to guards take him away, where Alex shuffles with the undignified steps of a shackled man, and they lead him out the door of the courtroom, and then the door closes with an anticlimactic thud, and then the camera is just filming the door. You can watch this one from the 911 call to the door, every second of it, which anytime all of the footage and audio is available, it lets people get a lot more invested than if it wasn't. So, 911 call to the door. And I would say maybe when Alec looks the worst, one of the times he looks the worst up on the stand is when Mr. Waters is asking him, do you carry your stupid assistant prosecutor badge that your dad gave you around? You carry that around? He shows up, Assistant Deputy Alex here. And it was given to him by his dad. The chances that he earned that badge on merit are about 0, but Alex goes, no, I don't carry it. And he goes, did you bring it to the hospital the night of the boat wreck? And Alex goes, no. And they had a picture where it's hanging out of his belt, where it leaves Alec, his only option is to say, oh, maybe I accidentally put it on my pocket and it was hanging out visibly. And it's just, you could really see who Alec was in that moment. He's carrying around his stupid badge. Assistant Deputy Prosecutor Alec Murdoch on the scene. And then they talk about all of the money that he stole from clients, which is a beyond horrible look. And then when they talk about, when Alec really starts looking stupid, the next time is when they're talking about the day the murders happened, June 7th, and now his timeline and alibi are completely nuked and pretty much irrelevant as far as defense goes. And so Alec is stuck with saying that he floored the golf cart as fast as possible out to the kennel, slammed on the brake, came to a skidding halt, jumped off, hey, a chicken in the dog's mouth, grabbed the chicken, put the chicken up, ran back to the golf cart, floored it, skidded out, sent gravel and pebbles shooting everywhere, shot back to the house, and only if you believe that he did that, he's only back for 45 seconds before the murders happened. So once that footage from Paul's phone 10 months later, again, that element makes this story one for the ages. To have a video that puts the person at the crime scene right when it happens, 10 months after all of the interrogations, is a great, satisfying moment. So now I want to talk about the closing arguments, because going into closing arguments from the defense, all I was really wanting to see was how are they going to handle that video of off Paul's phone that blows up the alibi. That is the case-defining chunk of evidence. What are they going to say in the closing argument? And it was interesting strategy how they handled it. What the strategy is let's bring up maybe the arguably weak parts of the prosecution's case, or the parts that don't look so good. Like apparently one of the law enforcement officers said that there were 4 shotguns loaded with buck and bird shot back at the house. And the way I understand it is he said that in an interrogation, and maybe it wasn't true, but it's like, hey, the interrogation's all fair, love, and war. I can lie in the interrogation. But that person also said that to the grand jury, and so lying to the grand jury is completely unacceptable. And that guy that did that, if it is true that he did lie to the grand jury, that guy should probably get in trouble. But it's such a unimportant part of the case. It doesn't change anything, that it doesn't change the case at all. But they're saying, at least according to the defense, they fabricated the blood splatter on Alec's clothes. To them, that was just a really unacceptable, and I'm not even sure if they did fabricate the blood spatter. I think that one is highly up for debate. But what they didn't bring up is Alec lost the clothes he was wearing that night. That what he's shown earlier in the Snapchat video, that outfit, sorry, I lost it. What do you mean, Alec, that you lost it? You were only home and in your car and at your mom's house and then back in your car and back home. How do you lose your pants and a shirt? That doesn't even make sense. You lost your clothes on the night that your wife and son were murdered, and then where there's video of you at the crime scene when it happened. Please. But the strategy was to handle the video that puts him there was, let's talk that they fabricated all the evidence, the blood spatter, the guy lied to the grand jury, and he goes, Alec was a suspect from the beginning. And that didn't age that well, because it's like, well, yeah, it would be insane if he wasn't a suspect from the beginning. The defense attorney goes, they told the public there was not even danger because all they were looking at was Alec. And they fabricated the blood spatter, and they lied to the grand jury about the shotguns, and then Eureka, the video from Paul's phone. He legitimately said Eureka twice. You know who has the evidence on their side, because whoever doesn't ends up saying really stupid stuff in their closing argument. And to say Eureka, Eureka. Finally, they get into Paul's phone and off they go. That's what he said, off they go, as if they should have looked at that evidence of Alec actually being at the murder scene right when it happened and thought, you know what, let's just not explore this any further. Okay, maybe he was at the scene, but he said he was at his mom's. That's good enough for us. But he was going, off they go. And then, so that's how they handled the devastating chunk of evidence is, let's bring up what we think is the weakest part, the most dishonest part and corrupt part of the state's case, and then slide in the devastating video from Paul's phone as if it was a part of that. Yeah, corruption. And they always looked at him as a suspect even before he was one, and also the devastating piece of evidence from Paul's phone. Nothing to see here. And okay, let's see that. And then, so after they minimized it and grouped it with some of the parts that the weakness of the state's case, then it goes into his voice was so cheerful on that video down by the kennels. There's no way it goes in from cheerful father voice, getting the chicken out of the dog's mouth, to all of a sudden he kills them. That doesn't make any sense. And anyone that's thought about this case for more than 5 minutes, I think has the thought of, oh my God, the thought of that Paul was in the feed room doing his thing. He hears his dad's cheerful voice and then turns around, and all of a sudden Alec is looking at him with a cold, blank face. And you're thinking, Dad? Probably a face that he has never seen before. And it's like, yeah, that's why this case is so horrifying. But the defense was using it as, that is unbelievable, that he's just this cheery dad on the video, and what, a few minutes later he kills him? And everyone's like, yeah, that's really why this is such a horrifying one. And let's see. And then they really attacked it with what I said earlier. Like, it's absurd to think that the motive is the financial crimes were coming to an end. They tried to really simplify the motive way down. He's about to get caught for these financial crimes, and he kills his family. That doesn't even work. He would have killed himself. That's what makes sense. He would have killed himself, not his family in that situation. And let's see, what else do I have on that one? It ends with, let's see, things that Mr. Waters said that are not fact. Yeah, then it ends with him going in on the guns, that the shotgun, the science that came back on the shotgun, it can't confirm or deny that it was the one used. So how can these be family guns? And the whole thing was a stretch. And like I said, it was a tough closing argument for the defense because the evidence really was on the prosecution's side. They tried to paint it as such a bad investigation, but really it was a really solid investigation. They had all of the times down on the cell phone, which made sense. They got Paul's video that blew up the whole thing, and it was a really forced, kind of tough closing for the defense, and it didn't work. He was found guilty on all charges, and then the next day, the judge, who has got to be my favorite judge that I've seen for a while, I ended up watching his sentencing remarks a couple times, telling Alec, I bet that Paul and Maggie come and visit you every night. I'm sure of it. I mean, that is some cold stuff. And he was sentenced to 2 life sentences consecutively, and they brought him back to jail or prison, and they shaved his head, and they took a picture in the faded orange jumpsuit, and that's the end of Alec Murdaugh. The next time I see you guys, we will be talking about and going over the interrogations. I'll see you next time. Why? Stabin' why? Shamita. I'm on pills.